Welcome to Kaizen Time, part of the Blood, Sweat, and Business podcast, where we provide constant improvement to businesses through timely, actionable financial solutions. Do you want answers to your financial questions? Email us at bsp@kaizencpas.com. I'm your host, Mark Valesky. Now let's get started. Welcome to another episode of Kaizen Time. I'm joined by Brian Bride, our Director of Payroll Operations. Welcome, Brian.
Hey, thanks.
We run into a lot of different problems with payroll, and I'd say they're pretty varied. What's something that you kind of notice that seems to be a little trick that people are using or maybe not using correctly or probably shouldn't be using at all?
Yeah, so one thing is misclassifying W-2 employees as 1099.
Yep.
That could happen for a variety of reasons, right? Companies that commonly have 1099s are in the construction world, right? You might outsource, you might hire a subcontractor to do something, and then you pay them, not through payroll, right?
So you're saying that'd be like a general contract, general manager who is overseeing a project, and then he's going to subcontract out, hey, a bricklayer,
right?
These guys are going to do windows, etc.
Right. Like I need a plumber to install a toilet somewhere, and I'm going to hire him just for that job, right? That's pretty common. The other one is knowledge service workers. So not like in a service bureau environment or something like that, but with a separate, like a very distinct skill. So an example that we have is we actually have a client that's they have a translating business. So they hire translators. So, something like, you ever gone to the hospital and it's like, hey, if you need to speak in one of these languages, there's a menu that you can call that they source that kind of things. Okay. So you would have, somebody probably sits in their house and they're taking calls. They need a translator. They call up this business. So a lot of those are 1099s because they do other things. They're not just waiting around for a phone call
from just that one business.
Right. So that they have their own EIN, they have their own LLC. So those are really 1099s. And that's a good point too. If somebody has a separate business, like they have an LLC, they have their own EIN, that's not their social security number, they're probably a valid 1099 contractor.
Okay. Any other businesses that really kind of seem to be doing this?
Seem to be doing this. Yes. So sometimes we see it in like restaurants and bars and retail stores, which is not really the fit. Right?
Not even close, right?
Not even close. If you pay more than one 1099 at a restaurant, that's a big red flag for us. We're probably going to have a conversation with you like, hey, are you sure you're classifying this employee correctly? Because, with the way a 1099 is, besides from it being, like a contractor, it's about the work that they do. So we can kind of hit that in a second, but like why somebody might do this would be they want to avoid paying benefits. So if you have a 1099 contractor, you don't have to pay any benefits to them. But with ACA, that's not really an issue anymore, right? If they're eligible and you're a small enough company, you don't even need to offer benefits because ACA helps you out.
You want to talk about what that is?
ACA is Affordable Care Act, Obamacare, etc. So if you have less than 50 employees, you're not obligated to offer insurance, and your employee can go out to the marketplace. Yep. And get their own. And then there's like credits and stuff for them. So if you have a smaller company, you don't even need to offer it. So there's no reason to misclassify somebody as a 1099 and save on that.
Okay.
The other thing is avoiding unemployment tax. So you have unemployment tax, you have to pay the state. Most times that's under $200 a year. So the fine
is like nothing, really.
Yes, it's very low, and the fine you receive will be way more than the $200.
Give me a ballpark number.
So for the fine, you'd have many options, right? So if they're supposed to be a W-2, you're not I-9 compliant. So that's generally like $1,000 for not being compliant. If you're not paying overtime, you could get sued. So let's say you hire somebody as a contractor, and then they work 50 hours in a week, and you pay them straight time because you're 1099, but they're really W-2 because you said you have to be here for this whole week, then you're out thousands of dollars for just trying to save a couple hundred. The other one's workers' comp. So if you're a construction company, workers' comp's a big deal, right? It's a big expense. But there's options for that too. You can do pay as you go, where you're only paying per hour or per job, so that cost you can really roll that into, and you can be very effective with your job costing. So if you're deciding, hey, I have these employees I want to save on workers' comp, there's other methods than throwing them as 1099s.
Okay. I want to talk real quick about I want to circle back to construction workers specifically. Okay, so what is the best way to do this? Because a lot of these people aren't just freelancers, right? They have a business that they're a part of. They're almost every, let's say, plumber I know is under some business as a W-2, and then to bring them in as just like a freelance seems like it's gonna mess things up. So what is the best solution then? If I am a general contractor and I need to bring these people in?
Well, if you're a general contractor, it really depends on what the role is, right? So, if you're hiring somebody as a plumber, you say, hey, I have this job that I need done by a certain date, and that's all the direction you give them, that's a valid 1099.
Okay.
If you hire a plumber and say, I need you to come here on Monday the 21st or 20th, sorry, and work from 9 to 5, and I need you to do this, and you get a 15-minute break, that's really controlling their work. And if you're controlling their work, they're not a 1099, they're a W-2.
Okay. So you can technically do a 1099, even if it's a company in reality, right? So you can call Bricklayers LLC to work for you. You're going to pay them like a freelancer,
right?
Even though they are working for a company, they're working for their own company,
right? So that company would be paying them W-2 wages, right?
Right.
So when you pay the company 10 grand for the job, the bricklayers are making 40 an hour or whatever. And then the overhead goes to the company there.
Okay.
Yeah. And so that's really how you kind of drive that kind of stuff. What kind of control you have over it, right? You can set terms, but you can't be like, you need to come to work on Monday at 9:00. That's not something that you can do.
In the end, freelance is more about, is the work getting done?
Right.
Not necessarily the time that is spent.
Correct.
Okay.
And so like, what are the aspects of the job, right? So how is the worker paid? So in your example, right, with the bricklayers, you are not paying those employees directly. You're paying the company. So then they're W-2 because the company says, hey, we bid out this job. We won it. I need you to go to this job site next week at 8:00 to start laying bricks, right? That is perfectly fine and a lot of those aren't going to be in your payroll, right? So if you have a larger general contractor company, you can do it through your payroll, but a lot of times they're invoicing on like net 30 and stuff. So you don't really need to, pay per time. That's another option, is like how you get paid, right?
Yep.
So are you invoicing for your time? Did you sign a contract with them? Do you say, hey, bricklayer, I want to hire you for this house I'm building. I need it built by this day, and here's the payment for it. I'll pay you 50% now and the rest later. That's the 1099. You're probably not doing that through payroll.
Yep.
Right. So, then if we're going to talk about, more of the fines, right? We kind of touched on it a little bit, but Fair Labor Standards Act is a big one in overtime pay, especially in like a construction industry. You're trying to get a job done. If you hire somebody and say you're a 1099 contractor and you say, hey, I need you to work 15 hours today, you're opening yourself up to a lot of liability.
So you said, obviously there's fines, right? But also you're kind of on the radar then.
Right.
Right. That's the other thing. So everything you do going forward has just a little bit more scrutiny than it did before. Right.
Some of you should be paying W-2, right? Then you hire them as 1099. What if they get in an accident? They're not carrying their workers' comp insurance. They don't maybe not know the difference between a 1099 and W-2. They're applying for workers' comp, asking for benefits, and they're getting like, you're a 1099. Then that opens yourself up to a whole bunch of issues. You possibly could have a lawsuit on your hands, and then everybody's looking at what you're doing. You're on out.
Well, and once that happens, all of a sudden that hits the news and people start questioning the validity of your business, right?
Right. Yeah. You just really want to hire people. If you're giving direct control of them, they're definitely a W-2. This is save yourself the headache.
And what was that saying you had? Is this worth?
Oh yeah. Is a juice worth the squeeze? So think about, let's say you have a standard guy that you want to pay 1099 because you don't want to pay the taxes. You don't want to pay some of the benefits. You think that's a big expense. It really isn't. If you're a smaller company, which would, in theory, be a little bit more cost conscious, there's things you can do, right? The marketplace, you're only saving a couple $100 on unemployment and workers' comp. You can do the pay as you go and per hour, so you can really job cost it, so you know how much you have to bid out for jobs and you're not getting cut short.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Brian.
Yeah, thank you.
You've been listening to Kaizen Time, part of the Blood, Sweat, and Business podcast. If you like what you heard, subscribe and leave a 5-star review. This podcast has been brought to you by Kaizen CPAs Plus Advisors, providing advisory and accounting services to help you grow your business. Learn more at kaizencpas.com or email us at bsb@kaizencpas.com.